Now, the last presentation in this session will focus on one of the critical materials of the energy transition, aluminium. Hydro, the Norwegian industry company, is a substantial producer and supplier of aluminium, and not only for the energy sector, but the production itself requires a lot of energy, and that affects the entire aluminum industry. So how are the challenges of secure energy value chains perceived from an industrial actor like Hydro, which, by the way, is celebrating its 120 years in 2025? Kristin Karlstad, she is ready to provide some reflections to us. She is Vice President for Sustainability at Hydro Aluminium, responsible for climate, environment, and social sustainability in Hydro's global aluminum business. Now, don't forget that you can ask her and all the other speakers questions through Slido. But first, give Kristin Karlstad a nice, warm round of applause.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, also slightly intimidating with this lineup on the front row. I'm not used to that, so I'll do my best. Yes, Hydro is a renewable energy and aluminium company. We are the largest energy consumer in Norway. We use over 17 terawatt hours of electricity every year, renewable electricity. Outside of Norway, and in Norway we have 5 smelters using those 17 terawatt hours. Outside of Norway, we are a major recycling player. We have about 40 recycling plants across Europe and the United States, so happy to discuss that also later. But right now I'm here to talk about us, Hydro, as a major energy consumer. So, Norway provides critical raw materials for Europe. We are actually an aluminium superpower. While China is really the superpower on a global scale and really outpaces everyone else, in Europe, Norway produces 40% of all the aluminium that is produced in Europe. And this amounts to about 60 billion NOK of export earnings, and we do export 95% of the aluminium we produce in Norway to Europe. And since we are using renewable energy, it's important to say that this aluminium is produced with a footprint that is about 75% lower than the world average. So if you produce aluminium based on coal power, you will have emissions of 20 kilos of CO2 per kilo of aluminium. In Norway, with renewable energy, we have a footprint of 4 kilos of CO2 per kilo of aluminium. So important to say. Aluminium is crucial for the energy transition. We are a cornerstone supporting the development of new technologies, and also aluminium goes into renewable energy equipment, our transmission grids, and more energy efficient housing and electric vehicles. So it's crucial in that respect. And as I said, aluminium is great because it can be recycled endlessly without losing its properties. So about 80% of all the aluminium that has ever been produced since the 1850s is still in use. Aluminium is also important for our total preparedness. So NATO has defined 21 materials that are important for defense supply chains. Aluminium and graphite are at the top of the list. And good for Statnett and others, we do also support critical infrastructure across Europe. However, even though the EU is realizing that keeping critical raw materials like aluminium in Europe is important, both from a strategic and a security of supply angle, Europe is deindustrializing. So since the invasion of Ukraine, we have seen an increase in energy prices that has led to 50% of metals production in Europe disappearing, being mothballed or shut down. And we have also lost over 1 million industrial jobs since 2019. So it's a very clear trend, and it's something that the European Union is now trying to do something about, fortunately. And the reason, as I said, for this deindustrialization is the European power prices. Aluminium is often called solidified energy, since it's very power intensive to make. And on the slide here, you can see that electricity is actually up to 1/3 of the cost base of aluminium. And labor is 20%, and then other raw materials are a bit more, but they are traded in global markets, so there's nothing we can do to actually influence their prices. That means that energy is the only way, really, that we can maintain our competitiveness from Norway. On the left-hand side, you see the price difference between the EU, the United States, and China, and how that has changed over the last few years. And power prices are hit by effects of war. The power balance is deteriorating, and there are the CO2 prices that hit the European power system through the European emissions trading system. And that also transmits into Norwegian power prices. So when a European coal power plant has to buy CO2 quotas, they transfer that into the power price that they sell to their customers. This is then transmitted into the Norwegian system, since we do have exchange with the continent. Exchange is very important, but we do have this CO2 price transmission into our renewable energy system. And therefore, power prices are expected to increase. Over the next few years, we are going to need about 4 or 5 terawatt-hours more of electricity to keep running our business and to keep decarbonizing our business. So we need more power, and we need it now. We do want to continue to invest in the future. A couple of weeks back, we announced a major investment in Karmøy, where we're going to build a wire rod machine, so a new production line to produce aluminium wire for power cables. Good news for Statnett if there is a crunch in the value chain. We are supplying and want to be a secure supplier for the European infrastructure. In addition, we are committed to carbon capture and storage, to new process technologies with lower emissions or with zero emissions, like hydrogen, plasma, and all new process technologies. And we do what we can to decarbonize all the existing operations. So here you see a picture of the biogas plant that is now supplying Sunndal, and will reduce emissions by 22,000 tons per year. What we need, and I see I'm running out of time, so I'll be quick. What we need to keep our momentum, we need stable framework conditions, we need power, and we need it now. And we need that Norway stay very close to Europe, especially with Liberation Day being upon us, with Donald Trump maybe coming out any second now. I was clicking refresh on my phone before I went up to see if these tariffs are coming on, because tariffs are a huge concern to Hydro, and we need to stay close to Europe to avoid falling between all chairs. We've been around for 120 years. We plan to be around for 120 more years. So, but for that, we need to stay close to Europe, and we need power. Thank you.